What is going on? Butch over here. I am going to do. Um, I've been doing this little thing, the truth about each sign. We're now on Leo. Um, I always kind of wanted to do this because I feel like a lot of times people don't necessarily understand other um, people as well as they should. Other signs, and it's just kind of a guideline. It's for it. A lot of this is going to be something that Leos are obviously going to know. This is more for friends, family, romantic partners, just to get to know them a little bit better, just kind of understand them a little bit better. And I feel like through understanding, that's how we really connect with people. I know a lot of this stuff long before I started doing tarot and before I knew any of this stuff. It would have been helpful. So I'm just trying to spread some awareness. I am a Leo rising, so a lot of these were actually quite familiar to me. I have some really good friends that are Leos, family. My youngest son, he's a Leo as well. So I take a lot of this from my own personal knowledge, but also things that I've learned through through my years as a tarot reader. But this is just my opinion, and I didn't want to do like a good versus bad or a pros and cons, because I feel like a lot of things can be kind of either or, depending on how they're put out there. So I just put down some things that we're going to talk about. I do have some place cards. I didn't want to get off track, and I can, if you watch my readings, I do get off track sometimes, so this is to keep me in line. The first thing we're talking about was confidence. Leos are probably the most confident sign I've ever encountered. They're so confident because they're very self-assured. They kind of give themselves their own pep talk. And sometimes they can come off as a little bit cocky, but I don't really I don't see it that way. I feel like it's more they're generously sharing themselves. And also they can come off as a little bit intimidating because they are so forward, and like I said, with that, they kind of just walk into a room and they light up a room. And it's they're ruled by the sun, so it makes sense. But like I said, very confident, very sure of themselves. The next thing is creative. Leos are very creative because of the confidence. Is a lot of these things play into each other, and I kind of did them in order as the way I see it. They're very good at expressing themselves, acting, dancing, music. Leos have a natural flair for performance. They, like I said, a lot of times people don't do things because they're not confident in themselves. Leos don't have that problem, and like I said, they can give themselves their own pep talks. I've witnessed it. I've done it myself. So yeah, they're very creative. They like to create things, and like I said, it's very, very known for self-expression. They're not afraid to show who they are. The next thing, they're very passionate. They go after what they want. And that again plays into the confidence. They have the confidence to do that. They have the confidence when they want something. I truly believe when a Leo wants something, there's really nothing that's going to stop them. Some people get deterred by other people, their opinions and all this other stuff. Leos don't really fold into that. When they want something, they go after it. They're not afraid of it. They're not afraid to fail. They don't want to fail, obviously, but they're not afraid to. They'll put themselves out there, and like I said, it's that their own pep talk really helps. Sometimes with certain people, when they're going after what they want, they can actually talk themselves out of it. Well, Leos talk themselves into it. You know, they keep themselves going, their own internal motor, I like to call it. The next thing, because of their confidence, because of who they are, they enjoy confident people around them. They enjoy confident partners, someone who shines with them. You know, someone who is self-assured and someone who is loyal and honest. You know, Leos offer a lot, and they just want that in return. You know, it's hard to be with a Leo if you're not confident in yourself, because Leos shine so bright, and they need someone that's going to shine bright next to them. They don't want someone that's going to fall behind. They don't want someone that's insecure. Now, like I said, this is just general. You know, because Leos will literally go into a room and take over, and they need someone that can gel with that can be okay with that, and that isn't intimidated by that. And like I said before, they can be quite intimidating, and they don't really want a partner that's intimidated by them. So that partner has to be kind of confident as well. The next thing, like I said about the partner, they want someone loyal and honest. The reason is with that is Leos offer you what you offer them. You know, what they want from you, it's not like they expect something from you that they're not willing to give you. Leos are very protective. You know, they're very loyal. You know, and when I think of Leos and their protectiveness, it's like a lion. You know, that lion will protect its pride. You know, that's when shit pops off, who pops up? The lion can be laying there all chill and just enjoying the sun, and shit pops off. You know, he's popping up. You know, and the claws come out. When the claws come out, you don't want to be anywhere around it. You know, so Leos are very, very protective people of those who they care about, and you know, there's no end to how loyal a Leo is. You know, they're loyal to the end. You know, if you're with a Leo, it's the ride or die. You know, they got you. And, you know, it comes with a lot of benefits. A lot of benefits. So I suggest don't piss off a Leo. And what's funny is with Leos is sometimes they'll even let you get away with some shit with them, like from the outside looking in. But they definitely won't let you get away with shit when it comes to people that they care about, people that they love. Like, they'll take your shit a little bit, but they won't take your shit when it comes to people that they care about. The next thing, Leos are again, more things that they offer is they're very helpful. You know, they're attentive, they're generous. They do things sometimes for other people because they feel like it. You know, they'll do something nice for you just because they felt like doing it. You know, they don't have to wait for your birthday. They don't have to wait for a special day for you. They can just feel it and they go for it. You know, they're big with grand gestures. They go big. Leos go big. You know, and it's part of the showmanship. You know, and like I said, when they feel like doing something, I'm very familiar with this. That's the way I am. If I see something that I know somebody wanted, or if I see something that I know someone will like that I care about, I have no problem doing that. I have no problem doing that because I know it's going to put a smile on their face, and that's what I want. I want to shine the light. I want, you know, it to be bright. The next thing we already talked about, but I want to put some more onto it is loyal. Leos are loyal as fuck. And I don't mean to swear, but I mean, I just want to stress how loyal they are. You know, I honestly, Leo and loyalty go hand in hand. You know, Leo will burn it down for you. You know, Leos will have your back, ride or die to the end. But it goes both ways. They want loyalty in return. You know, and if you're not loyal, you're gonna lose them. You know, that's one of the things I really see it as a Leo rising. That's one of the things I see the most in myself. Loyalty is everything to me. If you have my loyalty, you have anything you want from me. You know, I will go to the end of the earth for you. You know, if you're my friend or you're my partner or you're my family, I will stop at nothing for you. You know, that's one of the things with me is loyalty is everything. If you're loyal to me and I'm loyal to you, we're good, you know, for life. So don't screw that up, because their loyalty is something that you don't see a lot in the world. Like I said, because it comes with the protectiveness, it comes with the helpfulness, it comes from passion, you know, all those things, it comes with that. There's so much benefits to, but like I said, if you piss off or if you are deceitful or if they catch you lying, that'll really sting. The next thing is Leos want respect. You know, they want to be appreciated. They want to be admired. You know, they like being treated like royalty, you know, because Leo is the king of the jungle. You know, it's the king. You know, they're big and they, you know, they want appreciation for what they do because they do a lot. You know, when they do something for you, they just want to, they want that appreciation. They want you to give them the respect that they deserve. But they also, again, back and forth, because Leos will give you respect. If you respect them and you give them respect, they'll give you respect right back. So it's not like a take. It's a give and take. You know, one of the things that Leos dislike the most is being undervalued. You know, they have a deep need for admiration. They want to be admired. They want to be, you know, taken in. They want to, like I said, they want to be treated like royalty. But it doesn't mean they're not going to give it back to you, because they absolutely will. You know, when you do something for a Leo, they will appreciate it. The next thing's stubborn. Leo's got to be the most stubborn signs I've ever encountered, and I get that as well. You know, that's part of me. Once they made their mind up, good luck changing it, because you probably won't. You know, unless you have a hell of a good argument. You know, unless you can prove that point without a reasonable doubt. I mean, they're reasonable at a point, but like when they made their minds up about something, it's, you know, so if you screw over a Leo, if you lie to them, if you deceit them, if you know, if they catch you in some bullshit, once they decide that they don't want nothing to do with you, it's really hard to get back into the fold. Now, it's kind of Leos, when they make their mind up that they're right, again, it's hard to change their mind. But now, a little tip for people. Sometimes Leos can be more concerned with winning than the actual argument itself. So the best thing to do when you're in an argument with Leo is you're probably never going to change their mind. But if you have any sort of chance, the best thing to do is just let them cool off. You know, because it's easier to talk to them. It's easier to discuss when you're in a cooler heads. Cooler heads prevail because they are a fire sign and they burn hot. I get that as well. But yeah, I'm very stubborn. And next thing is outspoken. If Leos believe something, they're not afraid to say it. They're not afraid to say how they feel. They're not afraid to say how they think, which makes them great leaders. You know, they're not the type who's going to follow someone blindly. You know, if they have an issue, they're going to say it. If they like someone, they're going to say it. If they want something, they're going to say it. You know, they're very outspoken, and then that's part of the confidence as well. They have the confidence to just be who they are, you know, and it's, sometimes people try to change Leos. It's not a good idea. Leos need people that embrace them, not try to change them. But like I said, they are absolutely not afraid, and it kind of plays into, like I said, with the dance and the acting, um, and music. Like, that's why they're so great at those things, because they are not afraid to be who they are. They will speak out, and if they don't like something, they'll say so. And like I said, that's why they make great leaders, because leaders have to be ones that are willing to say what needs to be said. And it kind of leads us it really leads us into the next one. Leos are their own bosses, and they're very good at being bosses. Leos don't like to be bossed around. So if you don't like to be bossed around, the best thing to do is be the boss. But like I said, it's some people, like, if you're talking to people and you're telling them something and it doesn't make sense to them, they'll go along with it. But Leos won't. If it doesn't make sense, they're going to ask the questions. And like I said, Leos are their own boss. They don't like to be bossed around. They don't like to be told what to do. And like I said, it's one of those things where, if you don't like to be bossed around, you got to be the boss. And I actually was in the military for a short while when I first got out of high school. I was always in cadets and stuff. And then I joined, the reserves. And that's why it didn't work out for me. Because I don't like being bossed around. I don't mind being told to do something by someone I respect and someone I know knows what they're talking about. But when it comes to people that don't know what they're talking about, people that don't know why they're saying what they're saying, I just can't get on board with that. The next thing is, Leos don't really like routine because it can be boring. But it's kind of a two-part thing there, because they like to have some spice. They like some spontaneous energy. And they don't like routine, but they can be very consistent. Now, I know that kind of counteracts against each other, but they're more of put some flair in it, but they are consistent. They're consistently the way they are. You're not going to get any real curveballs from them. So they will switch it up, because they don't, like I said, they don't like to be bored. And it does really kind of work against each other. Like, they like spontaneity, but they're also very consistent. They can be known to be very consistent. So it kind of, like I said, it's kind of hit or miss. The next thing, Leos love intensely. When they love something, they love it. Romantic gestures, loyalty, affection. Leos do everything big. Leos do everything to the max. So love is no different. If a Leo loves you, you're gonna know it. It's not gonna be, if you mean something to a Leo, you're gonna know it, because they love with all the intensity, all that fire. Like I said, the romantic gestures, the grand gestures. They go out of the way, and like I said, they like that stuff. So they also give it. And, like I said, again, when they love you, when they care about you, you have their loyalty, you'll have their affection, and they won't hide it. Some other signs aren't great at expressing that, but Leo's top of the food chain right there. Now the next thing, when we're talking about love, is Leo's kind of like a traditional love. Their love languages, words of affirmation and gifts, which they say when you look it up. But honestly, I feel like Leos love all love languages. They like the grand gestures. They love they love touch. They love, words of affirmation. They love gifts. They kind of really like it all. So I feel like they're, what do they call it? They're fluent in all love languages, or bilingual. But they do like a traditional love. And what I mean by that is they like the romance. They like the passion. They like it all. But it's one of those things where it's traditional with a twist, we call it. That's what I'm going to call it anyway. They want it all. But like I said, grand gestures go a big way. Buying them flowers, buying them chocolates, for a female Leo, it's going to be considered lame. That's not good enough. I mean, they'll appreciate it, but like I said, if you really want to wow them, you got to go big. I'm talking about you're out to dinner and you got that band that comes over and plays. I mean, that type of thing, or the shooting, the planes in the sky that writes the notes. They'd love that shit. They'd eat that right up. So it works. And the next thing is pampering. They love to be pampered. Again, with they like to be treated like royalty. They like that. They like being taken care of. They want you to pet the lion. I say this all the time. Pet the lion. They want to be appreciated. They want to be admired. They want to be all the things. Because they love big. They want to be loved big. They like being taken care of, and they will take care of you. So it's a two-way street with pretty much everything when it comes to a Leo. It's a two-way street. The next thing, I mean, pampering kind of speaks for itself, so we can't really spend a lot of time on that. I just wanted to get it in there because it is a big thing. The next thing, Leos are just larger than life. They live big, they play big. And that's why you will see the actors and the dancers and the musicians. They like that center stage. They like people looking at them. That's why they make great performers. They're not afraid of the spotlight. They love the spotlight. They soak it up. They go big. And when a Leo walks in a room, generally you're going to know about it because there's just really no... I always laugh because one of my friends, he's a Leo. And when he walks into a room, you could be on the other side of the room. It could be full of people. You know he's in the room. You just know. He's a little bit loud, but I absolutely love him. Great guy, and he's always a lot of fun. And he fits into this so much. Like, he's such a loyal guy. And over the years, I've been friends with him pretty much my whole life. And over the years, I've seen his loyalty has no bounds. If he cares about you, or if you're loyal to him, and you have this connection, like I said, if you ever watch that movie, I can't remember what the movie's called, but he's like, we're gonna go, I need you to help me with something. We're gonna go, we're gonna do something. We're gonna hurt some people, and you can't ask me any questions. And he's like, which car are we taking? That's a Leo right there, in a nutshell. The next thing, it kind of goes in from the Leos can be very dramatic. They're big. They live large. They are large, but they can also be very dramatic. Very, a lot of theatrics. When it comes to Leos, sometimes they can be above and beyond. Like I said, larger than life. It just doesn't really. It doesn't say it enough. And a lot of these things with Leos, I mean, maybe I'm showing my love for Leos way too much, but you gotta love it. They do things big. They just take over. And most times people really appreciate that, but sometimes it can be a bit dramatic. Sometimes it can be taken as a bit dramatic, and sometimes people don't like them for that, but Leos don't give a shit. They like to be liked, and they don't like to not be liked, but they're going to do it anyway. You know what I mean? Like, some people think, like, Virgos tend to be kind of shy because they kind of read the room. Leos just kind of walk in the room and they write the room. The next thing, they love attention. They love attention. They love appreciation. You know, they love, like, when a Leo does something for you, they want to be appreciated for it. You know, and they love the attention. You know, that's why they are the performers. Like, they walk in and they'll tell a story. Like my friend I was just talking about, when he tells a story, he gets right into it. He's got the voices. Actually, he does that. We were at his house one time. And he was reading A Night Before Christmas. It was a couple of years ago. We were at his house for Christmas. He was reading it, and he got right into it. I was entertained, and I know the story. I hear it every year. And I was like, you know, and it just... But that's the thing. They want to be appreciated. They want the attention. They soak it up. They love it. One of the biggest things for Leos that they don't want is they don't want people underappreciating them. They not being appreciated can hit them pretty hard. You know, and it can happen two different ways. Like, it can piss them off, or they can just shut you down. You know, they do something for you and you don't appreciate it, they'll tell you about it. They will. And people take it as petty. It's really not. I don't think it is. I'm the same way. You don't have to do any, like, when I do something for you, I want you to acknowledge it. When I go to my way for you, I want you to acknowledge it. You know, and it's not petty at all. It's just, I feel like if someone does something for me, I appreciate it, so I give it. So I expect it. It's just it's having boundaries. The next thing, I can't really spin this in a positive thing to an extent. Leos are very jealous. You know, they can be very jealous. They don't like to be they don't like to feel ignored. They need a little bit of reassurance. Because if you're with a Leo and they start feeling distant, then it can turn to possessiveness. You know, it can turn to them feeling abandoned, and you don't want that, because then the jealousy comes out. You know, they will start fights with you. You know, if they feel like you're pulling away and they don't understand why, you know, they're going to get angry. It's the fire that comes out, and they are going to get jealous. You know, so don't talk about your exes. You know, they have a tendency to be a bit jealous, but they don't like it when you're jealous, because it shows insecurity. But that's the thing. Sometimes they need a little reassurance, just like anybody else. You know, they don't like to be ignored. Excuse me. So the next one kind of feeds off of that one. Leos don't like rejection. It really hits them hard. It can really bruise their ego. You know, and it can be very devastating to a Leo. Excuse me again. I don't know what's going on. But Leos offer so much. And if you reject that, it hurts them. Like, most people don't see it that way, but it really affects them. Excuse me. Like, and what happens when they do feel rejected and they do feel hurt, they will actually, you know, like a real lion, they'll step away and lick their wounds. They don't like criticism. You know, criticism and rejection, all those things, It's a negative attention that they really don't like. So the last thing, as I always do this with all signs, is kind of like, you know, their sexuality. Leos in the bedroom. Leos are passionate, confident, enthusiastic. You know, they give appreciation. They want appreciation. They like to take control, but they don't like you to be passive either. It's the duality of it all. They're adventurous. You know, it's like they live life. They're larger than life. You know, they in the bedroom the same way. They go hard. They're, like I said, they're enthusiastic. They like adventures. They want a firm partner. So they like to control, but they don't want you to be passive. You know, a very heated exchange between Leos. Leos are known for that heat exchange, and it comes in all facets. Even, you know, on a positive note, it comes in the bedroom. You know, you're in for a treat. Let's just put it that way. At the end of these videos, I always talk about, like, if you lose a Leo or if you want to get a Leo back, ways to do that. Each sign I say what's the best course. Say you're dating a Leo and somehow you screw it up and they, you know, you lose them. With Leos, I really don't know. I think if you get to the point where you lose them, you're screwed. You know, I remember this old saying, you know, as long as a Leo's fighting with you, you're good. When a Leo stops fighting with you, you're done. You know, they will cut you off. You know, so, and like cheating, you lost them. You're probably never going to get them back. You know, because that hits that nerve, that loyalty nerve. If you can't be loyal, then there's nothing else, and getting that back would be damn near impossible. You know, but it does depend. It does depend what you've done. Like cheating, you know, lying. You know, if you screw up minorly and they get pissed at you, give it a little bit of time, let them cool down, like I said before. You know, some things can be forgiven. You know, and like I said, with Leos, there's some lines you can't cross, but there's some lines you can bend. But if you cross one of the lines, you know, it's pretty much, you know, Dunsville. I talk about this ex I had years and years and years ago, because that was the only person I know for a fact cheated on me. And once I found out she cheated on me, I was done. I moved out. It was my apartment. She had moved in with me. We were together for a few years. I found out she was, you know, sleeping around. I don't even know if she was sleeping around. I just know that there was something going on with her and another guy. And once I was there, as soon as I found out, I walked out. I left her with my apartment, all my stuff. I didn't even go back for my clothes. I was just done. There's certain things you can't do. You know, I've had people do things to me that I've forgiven them for. There's certain things that you just can't. You know, and it's one of those things. Like, I've had people do something wrong to me, but come to my face and tell me all about it, and you know, be remorseful for it, and I can forgive that. You know, so if you lose a Leo, that sucks. Anyway, be good. Take care. Stay safe.